I will finally paste my review
Okay.
on
Now,
Google Drive.
what we need to do, Braulio, if you take a look in Canvas, I'd like for you to add these 4 steps, just as your classmates have done here. Okay.
Yes.
And you can do this by clicking on Edit. And this is the information we filled out during the first week of class. So finish this, go ahead and complete this information here. And let's see if, all right, and this is the template, right? Okay, now this is you have already included a link here, okay? And so you already have a Google document. I would copy and paste your information to this document because you've already included the link here. So you don't have to do anything more there. You already have the link. And so copy and paste the information to this Google document. This Google document that's already set up. We're going to continue working only in this one document the entire semester.
Well, it's because that is one of my questions because I couldn't find that previous link, so I created a new one.
So when you go in,
and I shared it with you.
All right. So when you go into Google Drive, okay, and let me show you what that looks like. All right, this is Google Drive.
Yes.
All right. Everybody who has a Google Drive document has access to this main page, and this is where all of your files reside. So if you go into Google Drive, you will see the other documents. That is the document that has already been set up for you. In fact, the one that you set up initially, you'll find this one. Okay? If you go into your Google Drive, right now I have a lot of files and a lot of folders. You probably have 2 files right now. You probably have this file that you set up weeks ago that you've already linked to Canvas, right here. And perhaps you have a second document that you now are talking about that you shared with me. So all you have to do is copy the information from the document that you just created and move that over to the other document that you already have set up.
Yes.
And that document, both documents should appear right here.
Yes.
In Google Drive. Okay? So once you've done that, do that first, and then send me an email in Canvas to take a look at it. And I'll take a look at it. I'll come in here in Canvas, I'll click on your link here, open it up, and I'll take a look at it from here.
Yes. Well, I have 2 questions. First of all, in which option can I find my link? Because as I told you, I couldn't find it, so I created a new one. But I selected the option of sharing with you.
All right.
And I want to know if you received
it. All right. The document that you set up, let me go back to Canvas. See this link here?
Yes.
You did this, right, at the beginning? Or yes. I think we did it. I don't know if we did it together or you did it on your own, but
you helped me.
All right. So you created a link here, okay? And this is your document. You don't have to reshare it. You don't have to do anything. I have access to it. I can edit it. I can do everything that I need to do. So you don't need to reshare anything. It's done. The only thing that you need to do is move that data, that information from the document, the new document that you have, and bring it and just copy and paste it over to this document. You don't have to reshare it. You don't have to email. You have to let me know in Canvas, just a message, but you don't have to do anything else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to share. To answer your question, to share documents, you go up here to share, right? And this gives you information to share. But you've already done it, see? I can access, I can edit it, I can do everything I need to do. You don't have to do it again. You just continue working in this document, make changes, and as the moment that you make changes, I see the changes.
Okay. Right. But where is the option of the link? Because I did login in Canvas, but I couldn't find my link, so that's why.
All right. So when you go to Canvas, All right, and we start from the home page. Okay, this is the main page in Thesis Seminar. Okay, we can go to modules, and we want to click on student thesis list right here. This link right here.
Okay.
Under week 1, it's called student thesis list, and this is a list of all the student thesis. Click on that link, and you scroll down just a little bit, and here's your name.
Okay.
See, and this is where you're first going to click edit and add these 4 steps. This is from that first handout that we worked on in the first week. This is,
Okay.
you need to add this. If you click edit, okay, then it gives you the option to edit, and all of you
Okay.
have it, just click and add the information based on that initial handout.
Well, I have here my USB. Bueno, cuando salga de aquí me voy a las computadoras del CAD para pegárselo ahí. Es que no encontraba el link, por eso creé otro, y también tengo una copia del que usted nos mandó con las reglas para no alterarlas. Entonces,
Okay. So now just go in when you have a chance. Go into your Google Drive here and copy and paste the information over. And that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to share anything or anything. Just copy and paste the information over to this document. This document is called Thesis.
yes.
Okay, so you have a file that's called Thesis, and that is the document that I have access. You have another document that's called something else. That's the new document. That's the document that you want to copy information from and paste it to the document called Thesis.
Okay.
All right? And once you've done that, then go into Canvas, go into Inbox, and send me a message. Say, please check my work in Google Drive.
Okay.
Okay. And once I get that message in here, I'll go to Google Drive, I'll go to this document, and I'll make comments. And you'll see the comments directly from here. And then you make the changes, you ask questions, you can ask questions in here, and I can respond to the questions directly in Google Drive.
Okay, so the link is in models, in thesis students list.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my link. And if I want to send you a message, it's in
Canvas.
inbox.
In inbox, that's right.
Okay.
This is where you receive emails from me. Yeah. And you'll probably, I think I've sent you some emails. So you should have my name over here.
Yes.
And you click my name, right? Like if I click one of my students' names, I get all of the correspondence here, all the prior emails. And you would do the same. I probably have sent several emails, and you just click on my name, and then you can respond here. Please check my work in Google Drive. And then I'll receive it in my inbox.
Okay, let me go to Caddy to upload.
All right, well, let's
Okay.
talk first. So that's the literature review. Let me know when you have that uploaded. I'll take a look at it and give you feedback, and you continue working and cleaning it up.
Yes.
We need to talk about your instruments because we only have 2 more weeks to finish the design of the instruments before we need to start collecting our data.
Yes.
Now, what are your research questions? What are you focusing on? What's the purpose of your study?
Well, I want to investigate about the importance of external influences. Well, that's what I mean with another sources of English, because they are, well, they are several. For example, one is TV programs, also music, because that creates an interest. Because, for example.
So, all right, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Can you give me some questions? So I try to form a question into what you would like to research. So let's just throw out some questions and start thinking about different types of questions that might work as research questions. So what might be, and think of question words like how and why and when and with whom, content questions that you could create that would be the focus of your research.
Well, but in this case, it could be, for example, how important is the influence of, is it good to call them external influences?
We can call
Or
that's fine. Call it
external influences of English, not related to the school in your own classes.
Okay. So the first thing that you ask is how important. So how important is this, whatever it is? Okay. Now, what possible answers could you get? It's important. Yes, it's important. No, it's important. Instead of thinking, because we need to know more, right? It's not just saying, oh, it's very important.
No, it's just a question. Obviously, I need
Alright,
more questions.
All right, so let's take that same idea and ask maybe another how question, but let's remove the word important. Think of the same idea, starting with how, taking out the word important. How would you phrase the question? How
Could it be how high or how big is the influence you receive from external sources? I mean, if
let's try to be more specific. Okay, try again. All right. Let's ask the same question, but be more specific. Very specific. Think about, because these questions. Think about what you're going to measure, what you're going to, how you're going to measure it. All right. So let's try it again, and let's try to make it more specific.
For example, they use necessary or no, no. Could you give me an example?
All right. What's the topic of your? If I ask you, what's the topic of your research?
Well, to investigate how the the influence that external sources have on students, because it is a help for them. It's like a motivational factor, but at the same time, I want to investigate. Well, in this case, asking teachers if they consider that it is good or bad, because for some of them it is good that they have a previous base, but for other teachers they consider that they are like more advanced and they are like interrupting all the time.
Right. So if I understand you correctly, you're interested in looking at the impact or the influence on students that come from external sources outside the classroom. Are we saying, when we say external, are you referring to outside the classroom?
Yes.
Okay. So external sources outside the classroom, what effect does that have on students in the classroom?
Yes.
All right. Now, we're still very general. Because when we say external resources, how many external resources could be involved? I mean, think about any student in any English class, in any class. How many different external sources or influences are there on any one student?
A lot.
A lot. Now, because the purpose here is that you have to research this. You actually have to see what these external resources are. And it's not enough just to ask the student, because they could say a lot of different things. You also need to be able to observe something, right? If you want to do a qualitative research, you need to have different data sources to be able to triangulate, that is, to be able to see from different perspectives to understand that phenomenon or whatever's happening, right, or that perspective. So instead of saying Okay, another thing that complicates this, okay? To be able to measure these external sources, because you're talking about things that happen outside the classroom, you have to observe this. You have to collect the data about this. So think about all the number of external sources that could exist. Many different types. Plus the fact that you're not even focusing on what's happening in the classroom, you're focusing on outside the classroom. So you might have to follow people around and see what they, okay, so it becomes difficult.
Yes.
All right. So what I would recommend is a research study that you can focus on that's inside the classroom. Something that happens inside the classroom, not something that happens outside the classroom. Okay? Something that you can measure, something that you could possibly observe, something that you could, in this case, observe a teacher doing and maybe have an interview with the teacher or the students, but something inside the classroom, something that is happening, a phenomenon or an activity or technique or method or material that is happening that you can observe yourself, that's doable. Okay? So, think about that. Let's think of another question. Think of a question that you could focus on that is something that you could measure inside the classroom.
So I must focus on a specific type of reality. Well, because I planned to investigate about the influence of music, videos, video games, uh, magazines that are in English but not related to, well, to the school aspect. I mean, no, well, authentic material, real.
Okay.
But you recommend me to just focus on one of these sources and not.
Well, don't. Again, we don't. We want to focus. We don't want to focus on too many different types of authentic material. Now, authentic material. You can focus on authentic material. Okay. Um, so let's start with that. So we have authentic material. Now, what about authentic material would you like to investigate?
Mm.
Thinking about something inside the classroom.
Well,
Think about your literature. I'm sorry. Think about your literature review too. What did you talk about in your literature review? All right. It has to be related to your literature review.
well, it's because I focus on several of these aspects. That is the that is the question. That I investigate about TV magazines.
All right. Are you interested? Think of linguistics now. So, are you focused on listening, reading, writing, speaking, grammar, vocabulary, interaction, interactional patterns?
It is actually related with vocabulary and grammar. So I think that it could be better the written sources like magazines, texts that are not really focused on the scholar subject. For example, well, there are books that are used like materials,
Okay.
but they are not actually.
Okay. So, but let me ask it a different way. Think about the learner. Are you interested in researching reading, writing, listening, or speaking, grammar, or vocabulary from the learner standpoint? Like using this material, this authentic material, do you want to understand an individual skill or an integration of skills?
Mm, well, I think that it should be better to focus on grammar.
Okay, grammar. So we're talking about grammar and authentic material. Think about now. Let's think of a question that involves these two key terms. What do you think? And some thinking in terms of inside the classroom.
Could it be like, for example, how how does authentic material uh, affects? It is like, it sounds like kind of aggressive, but I mean affect in not in a negative sense, but it could be also possible. I mean, how do authentic materials affect your grammar level?
All right, so when we use how do authentic materials affect the learning of grammar, when we say affect the learning of grammar, we're focusing more on learning or teaching?
In the learning of students.
Right. So what I would recommend is let's focus more on teaching than on learning for the purpose of this thesis,
Okay.
right? So we're going to avoid words like affects the learning of, we're not going to use those words, all right? Because we're focusing more on learning. Let's focus more on pedagogy, on teaching, on the actual act of teaching instruction. So let's try again. How
do authentic material influence? It could be
influences es lo mismo de impact, sí. Tampoco vamos a utilizar. How about this? How do teachers, ¿qué más?
take advantage. No.
How do teachers use authentic material to teach grammar? No. Can we get more specific than this question? How do teachers use
music to teach grammar, video to teach grammar? So, like using the question with the sources.
We could use it that way, right? We could also become more specific on the type of grammar because there are different types of grammar. You can teach it implicitly, explicitly. You can teach it incidentally, right? Intentionally, right?
Well,
You can. There are different ways, but in your literature review, you need to discuss the types of ways that you can teach grammar. And so you might include how do teachers use authentic material to teach implicit grammar, perhaps. Or it just depends on what you want, because still this is pretty general. I mean, grammar, explicit grammar, implicit grammar.
Yes, I will have to select one.
But this question gets us closer, okay? So we're getting closer to a research question that you can measure, okay? In your literature review, you're going to need to talk about authentic and non-authentic. In the grammar, you're going to need to talk about different types of grammar in your literature review. Now, you may need to have one or two more questions here that maybe talks, that also addresses the purpose of your research. But this is what I need to look for. I will be looking for this type of question in your literature review at the very end. Okay, remember that the research questions go at the very end of your literature review. It's the very last paragraph. So the last paragraph, you're going to restate your thesis statement and then introduce or transition into your research questions. But that happens before the method section. Remember that you also have a thesis statement at the beginning of your literature review. So at the beginning of literature review, you're going to have an introduction. Right now, we're not working too much on our introduction, but the thesis statement goes at the end of your introduction, towards the beginning of your literature review.
It's linked.
And then you go into the main sections of your literature review. You should have between 2 to 4 main sections in your literature review, more or less. Okay. So I want you to really think. I want you to look at your literature review again. Go ahead and copy and paste your literature review over to Google Drive. Look at it again. Think about this research question that we've talked about today. Thinking about maybe adding one more research question, and if possible, making sure that it's specific. This is pretty close. I think we can work with this. If you want to focus more on implicit grammar only, right? We can focus on that. But this is kind of where we need to be with the research question and being more specific, something that you can actually measure. Thinking about only what you can observe inside class, not so much outside of class.
But even though, could I mention information that complements my little review using, for example, maybe let's suppose that I don't focus on music, but could I write about music as a way to complement the information of my thesis? Sorry, my thesis?
Uh,
Or should I
well,
avoid?
the idea here is not to talk a lot about topics in your literature review that does not relate to what you research.
Yes, just
So,
like a supporter, very very brief.
yeah, so I would prefer that you choose one or two types, like fewer types of authentic material, and you focus on those types. Like for example, I have some students who are focusing on video. That's it, use of video, but authentic video, not non-authentic, but authentic video only.
Yes.
And vocabulary or grammar or speaking or listening or whatever, but only video. I've had other students, not this semester, but other students who have only focused on music. Only. Their whole research was focused on music. So my point here is try to focus. It's better to focus on fewer topics, but talk more about those topics and more in depth so that we better understand those few topics instead of talking about so many topics but very superficially, very lightly, that we just kind of gloss over it. We want to know more about fewer topics because in your research then you want to focus on teachers who are focusing on those types of authentic materials. Music is a good example. I think there are many teachers who use music in their teaching, and I don't think you're going to have a problem finding teachers who use music in their teaching. I don't think you're going to have problems with video. Video games, you might have more problems finding teachers with video games, so maybe you don't talk about video games in your literature review. Because if you know that nobody uses video games or very few people use video games here locally in your research, well, don't talk a lot about it or don't talk about it at all in your literature review. Talk about those topics that you know that it's very likely that you're going to be able to research here in your local context here in Mexico.
Something that I can observe.
And
Like,
something
for
you can
example,
observe. You know, if they use video games in class, I mean, that might be, I mean, maybe there are, but it may be a little bit more difficult.
It's very difficult.
I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than maybe like music, video, magazines, maybe, right? But you have to decide on the types of materials that you're very likely to find because you're going to have to, in fact, that's what we need to be talking about now is coming, once we have this research question here, these research questions figured out, then we need to figure out the instruments. We haven't even talked about the instruments. And we can't talk about the instruments. We talk about the research questions. And really, we can't talk about the research questions until we know that you have developed your literature review, because your literature review should be should be constructed around your research questions. So everything's kind of tied in to one another. And so I think what we need to do now is I think we need to meet again next week, but before Friday, because we only have 2 more weeks. My concern now is the time. I need to look at your literature review. So today, copy and paste it over to Google Drive. This weekend, I'll look at your and give you feedback. But I need to see the research questions. because next week we need to meet as soon as possible, whenever you can meet, to talk about your instruments. Right? We still have 2 weeks to do your instrument design, but we need to talk about it within the context of good research questions. And so next week I'll have had a chance to look at your literature review, look at your research questions, then we can have a conversation about your design of your instruments. And we need to do that preferably Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever you can schedule time before our tutoring session on Friday, so that we don't let another week pass. We have this discussion, and you start designing your research questions. So maybe by Friday you can bring in some samples of your instruments based on your research questions. I can give you feedback, and then you'll still have another week to make changes on the instruments before you start your data collection. But it's essential. All right, this is very important. You're at a what's the word? You're at a moment here in the process that is critical. You're at a critical time right now. You have 2 weeks for your design of your instruments, which is enough time. You can get it done. In 2 weeks from now, you have to start your data collection, because you only have about 3.5 weeks to collect your data. And you have to have all of your data collected, all of it, before vacation, before Holy Week in April. Okay? That's critical, because if you still do not have all of your information collected before vacation, before Holy Week, then you're going to have a really hard time finishing. Really, really hard time. So it's critical right now is to like I'm saying now, get for next week. You need to have see me as soon as possible so we can start discussing your instruments. So by Friday next week, you have your at least you can present your instruments. I can give you feedback on your instruments, and you still have a few days of the following week after that to make changes, because you're still going to have one more additional week to finalize your instruments. But it's impossible to talk about instrument design without literature review and good research questions, especially the research questions. It's impossible. I can't even help you. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, and the research questions have to be very specific, and that's what that was today. Kind of what I was hoping to get here, and I think we have questions that are more specific. Okay, and obviously this has to be something that links to your literature review, something you're interested in, but this is where we need to be, something more specific. If you don't want to research this, fine, but it has to be specific. That's the point I want to make today, is that the research questions have to be very specific and something that you can observe and measure and research. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, in that case, well, video games are completely out because it's not something observable. Magazines, well, there are teachers who actually use magazines, but it's like more common. Well, you have right in that aspects. It's more common that they use music or videos than magazines, because magazines. Well, it is like very difficult to find out a magazine that is useful for the class, and well, it like spends a lot of time. So so music, it will be like more simple. So well, simple.
Think about it. Look at your review. I'm not going to make any changes or modifications to Google Drive until you send me an email on Canvas. So move it over first. Look at it again. Look at your research questions. Make the changes that you think are necessary. When you're ready for me to look at it, send me an email. But I want you to clean it up first if you think that you need to clean it up. Okay, so if it takes you a few more days, then that's fine. But when I look at it, I am looking at it as if it were a finished literature review. That's how I've done it with each of you, each of my students. I'm looking at it, saying, from the expectation that it's where it needs to be. All right, so just take a look at it. If you need a few more days, fine. Take a look at it, make the changes. When you're ready for me to look at it, send me an email on Canvas. These recordings, every one of our tutoring sessions are being recorded. Do you know how to access the recordings?
Well, I think that there is a specific option in which you can watch the videos.
Okay. Do you know where to find those?
No.
All right. When you go into the Thesis Seminar from the main page, go to Discussions. Okay. There's an option here, Discussions. And in Discussions, there should be a pinned discussion at the very top. But you're going to look for Thesis Seminar Tutoring Sessions. This is the name of the discussion. And this is where all of the recordings for all of my students can be found. So that I have a lot. I have a lot of videos. When you look at this, click Playlist. Okay, Playlist is going to show you a list of all of the videos. Maybe. Okay, so that's not working. So instead, click here, this link. This is going to open up another page
In YouTube.
In YouTube. It's the same video. And on the right-hand side, here are all the videos. Now, there are a lot of videos, but I'm titling these with each of your names, the week, and sometimes when I talk about instruments, I put instruments, but you're going to look for your name. Okay? And I try to keep it in order, so the most current videos are going to be at the top. Okay? So today, I have a lot of videos to upload today, so it may be between today and tomorrow. Okay? But probably tomorrow you should be able to go here and find your video. Okay? Again, it's in Canvas, the home page, Discussions, and there's one that's linked that's called Thesis Seminar Tutoring Sessions. And I used to be able to access these directly from here, but for some reason it's not allowing me to do that. If you can access it from Canvas, just click on this link, and this opens up. Yeah. And you can download the video. You can watch it as many times. I'm going to keep it up all semester. But go back and listen to what we talked about. If if you forget something or just want to review something that we talked about, you have access to this. Every session is recorded. Take a look at the others. People, some of the comments I'm making to your classmates. Look at your classmates' work online. The reason why I'm making everything so transparent is for you, each one of you, to work together, to at least share and look and see and compare what you're doing with others. All right, so that you're not working in isolation all by yourself, that you can compare what you have with others and see if it's any different. Look at the feedback that I give everyone else in Google Drive. I'm making everything as transparent as possible so that you have access to this information. Okay, so take advantage of this. Try to get into Canvas. If at any time you're not sure about how to find something, you're confused about Canvas, you don't know something about Google Drive, send me an email or come by my office. I'll be more than happy to explain it or even create another video to try to explain how to do something if it's not clear. But the point is not to spend time being lost, and that in this case we try to catch up a little bit so that you are on track, okay, that you don't get behind. Because right now, it's okay, we still have time to catch up. But from now on to the end, it's going to be more difficult. If you don't get caught up now and stay caught up, it's going to be very difficult to catch up now because we have data collection. It takes some time, and so yeah. Let's do that next week. Do you want to schedule a time now to meet, or do you want to get back to me?
Well, it's because I'm not sure if I could do it on Wednesday or on Tuesday.
Well, you let me know. You let me know when you can meet. My schedule, if you want to take a look at my schedule to see when I'm available when I don't have class, If I don't have class, we can schedule a time. You can, or you can come by if I'm available. Obviously, we can meet when I don't have class. Okay, so you let me know.
Okay. Thanks for your help.
All right, you're welcome.